Welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord. We have some trade rumors as the NBA offseason could begin today. Could begin today. If the Nuggets win the championship, the season will be over, and it will be all offseason talk, which means a lot of trade rumors. And as expected, the Hawks are going to be right in the middle of those because they have some big decisions to make. And this one is surrounding one of their star players, and Dejounte Murray, who they just acquired from the Spurs. Now there's talk, a report from Bleacher Report, that he could be made available via trade, which isn't all that surprising, but it's hard to look at it as anything but a negative for the Hawks because you just traded for this guy and gave up all those assets. Now a year where he was pretty good, but he wasn't probably as good as everyone expected, and the fit was a little wonky, like a lot of people thought might be the case. But there's no way you can get that value back. So you're basically just admitting a sunk cost. I do think Dejounte Murray could be used. I think the only way the Hawks move on from Dejounte Murray is if he's used to land a bigger piece, though. So I'm not too negative. I don't see a situation where they just try to recoup assets. I think they're trying to win. I don't think they're just going to admit a sunk cost and try to recoup assets. The only way I see him used in a trade is if they're, I don't want to say Jaylen Brown because I feel like that's super unlikely. Like that's not going to happen. But a player like that where you're using him as the centerpiece to give to a team like another competing team like Boston, you're basically swapping all-stars plus whatever else the Hawks would give. That's the only reason that's the only way I see them. But maybe I'm wrong.
It's very difficult because the Hawks are in a financially tight position. DeAndre Hunter's extension kicks in. Clint Capella is still expensive. Bogey just got an extension. Trae Young's Supermax kicks in. Dejounte Murray's going to be looking for a new deal. The Hawks are in a very tight position. There's not a lot of options without taking losses on some front, whether that be trade or whatever else. John Collins seems like the most likely candidate to be traded. I do think everybody on the team except for Trae Young and Bogey are up for grabs. And the only reason I include Bogey in that is because of how much Quinn Snyder values three-point shooting, and they just extended the guy. If we're looking at, and this, I'm kind of going off base a little bit, Dejounte Murray did probably disappoint a little bit. John Collins has been disappointing the past few seasons. If we want to look at somebody who needs to turn it around, it's DeAndre Hunter. It's the number 4 overall pick who just got that extension. We need him to be a guy. With that being said, there's not a lot of routes or options the Hawks can do right now I feel like, to improve the roster immediately without taking a step back first, whether that be, taking losses on Dejounte Murray or moving John Collins for a lot less, pretty much his lowest value of his career. It's just all difficult. And if you're Quinn Snyder, Landry Fields, and Kyle Korver, you're listening to every single offer. You have to, because you don't have that many options. And if they're coming in on Dejounte Murray, so be it. I do think this team can be a lot better as is under Quinn Snyder, but it's still not a championship roster, in my opinion. If I had it my way, we'd run it back with a very similar group, trade Clint Capella, get in a center that can actually spread the floor. That way, John Collins' value is higher, hopefully. You can move him at the deadline. Dejounte Murray, that would open up cap space to sign Dejounte Murray. There's just no simple solution for this Hawks team. It's going to be a rough summer, I feel like. There's not too many options on the table that make them immediately better.
Yeah, to me, I just think the best version of this team is one with Dejounte Murray on it. So, yeah. I feel like they got better as the year goes on. I think sometimes it takes 2 stars, especially 2 guys that are ball dominant players, takes them a little time to gel and mesh. And I think under Quinn Snyder, I think they'll be able to do that a lot better, having that year under their belt. I thought they showed they were closer at the end of the season than a lot of people thought they were. And I think it's fixable. I think if you trade Dejounte Murray, you're basically saying it's not fixable. And I've been on the side of the fence that said, hey, man, we might need to blow this whole thing up for most of the season. But I think they salvaged something with Quinn Snyder and what we saw at the end of the season to give you enough to say, hey, we should run it back with something close to and I agree. I think the easiest route to getting this team better it is moving a guy like Clint Capella or John Collins or something like that, and filling the void and finding more shooting and getting this team to play like Quinn Snyder wants to play, which is a fast-paced 3-point shooting, happy offense. And I think if they do that, get a little bit better defensively, find some guys that can shoot three and play defense, they can be a lot better than they were last year with a similar roster. So it's hard for me to imagine they're trading Dejounte Murray for anything other than getting another or multiple good players in return. It just doesn't seem like that would be, you're really admitting a sunk cost there. If you just trade him for a couple for maybe 2 first-round picks. I mean, I don't even know what he'd get. And just if you're just trading for something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think Quinn Snyder took this job to completely remake the roster. I think he saw the roster. I think he loves Trae Young. I think he also likes the idea of pairing Trae Young and Dejounte Murray. Guys, we traded for we have 2 ball dominant guards. It's not exactly easy to get the most out of that pair. Nate McMillan was not the guy to do that. He's not creative enough. Quinn Snyder is that guy. Heralded as an offensive maestro, mad scientist, whatever you want to call him. He's the guy that can get the most out of Trae Young and Dejounte Murray. And in the same breath, John Collins, in my opinion, I think he can get the most out of John Collins. If we can get John Collins' trade value back up to where it was, he comes out and starts making threes like we've become accustomed to. He's lost it over the last couple seasons, and then you move him. I think that's the best course of action.
Yeah, I agree. I would be shocked if DeJounte's just traded for picks and some trash. That would really surprise me. Coming up after the break, we're going to talk about DeAndre Hopkins, still a free agent. Could the Falcons be involved?